statement. Mr. Barr, as ranking member, you're now recognized for your 5-minute opening statement.
Thank you, Chairman Green. Good to see you and all of our colleagues and witnesses. Thank you again for joining us virtually for today's hearing. The coronavirus pandemic and the associated government-imposed shutdown of the economy disrupted the lives and livelihoods of citizens across our country. Businesses shut down, unemployment skyrocketed, workers who remain employed face uncertain prospects for their long-term stability, and families were at risk of losing their homes. As you all know, Congress passed and the President signed into law the CARES Act, which helped individuals and small businesses and created forbearance options for struggling homeowners. At the peak, approximately 4.7 million families were in forbearance. Many more families would undoubtedly have lost their homes or struggled to make payments if not for the swift and decisive response from Congress and the administration. The implementation of the Paycheck Protection Program, economic impact payments, the Federal Reserve's lending facilities under 13.3, which opened credit markets, and other assistance programs under the CARES Act made it easier for homeowners to pay their mortgages, families to stay in their homes, and small businesses to build a bridge to the other side of the crisis. Fortunately, we have seen the number of mortgages in forbearance decrease since the peak, declining a full 13% since May. However, we are not out of the woods yet. There are still millions of homeowners facing hardship and requiring additional assistance. I hope to learn from our witnesses today what may be helpful next steps as Congress contemplates additional legislation. The far-reaching aid to American homeowners was a collaborative effort between Congress, the administration, regulators, and the private sector. It's important to note that while the CARES Act mandates that servicers of federally backed mortgages offer forbearance options to borrowers, that same requirement is not in place for loans held in portfolio or in private label securities. Despite the absence of this mandate, however, servicers of these non-federally backed loans stepped up during this crisis and offered similar forbearance terms for their borrowers to those mandated under CARES. This shows that in times of crisis, the government and the private sector can work together, and that the private sector has acted responsibly in the interest of homeowners without having government mandates imposed on them. Unfortunately, my colleagues on the other side of the aisle believe that a top-down mandate on all servicers would be more effective. The Partisan Heroes Act included a mandate for automatic forbearance for all borrowers struggling to pay their mortgages. Not only does this mandate appear unnecessary given the market dynamics we've seen to date, but it actually has the potential to further disadvantage borrowers by limiting their options. On May 4th, Chairwoman Waters and Chairman Green sent letters to some of the largest mortgage servicers requesting information about their interaction with customers following the passage of the CARES Act. The implication of the letter was that mortgage servicers skirted their responsibilities under the CARES Act or somehow profited by steering their customers into forbearance when not in the best interest of the borrower. The data the majority received in response to their letter told a very different story and demonstrated that servicers are working well with borrowers in their times of greatest need. This hearing is a hearing in search of a problem. Now, that is not to say that there weren't some hiccups along the way. There were understandable growing pains and bumps in the road as servicers staffed up call centers, updated websites, and implemented the necessary technology to help their customers. However, given the scope and scale of the forbearance requests and the short time frame to implement new processes, the servicers overall should be commended on their treatment of borrowers in a time of crisis. And I think the creditors, the mortgage creditors and the servicers, they've learned from experience that the expense of foreclosure and repossessing these properties is not in anyone's best interest. Keeping homeowners in their homes is in the best interest of all involved, particularly those struggling Americans who need help. I look forward to further exploring how servicers worked with their customers, the efficacy of the CARES Act provisions in keeping families in their homes, what additional actions may be required by Congress, and potential areas of improvement in the servicer-borrower relationship. And again, I thank all of you for being here today, and thank Chairman Green again and Chairwoman Waters for holding this hearing.